Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. I'm really happy to be here. And this is going to be really informal. This is, me talking about how I got to where I am. And obviously, as much as I can, hear back from you guys and hopefully excite and motivate you, that's really why I'm here today. You've heard a little bit about my story. Can you go to that website? That would be great. But what I'm going to do today is talk a little bit about the career that I've had, a little bit about how Jen started out, and then this kind of thing that came out of nowhere that kind of turned my life around, and how did I get back on track and continue to live the life that I want. And I think the most important thing to understand is that I learned in my life that you have a choice. You have a choice every single day to live the life that you want. And if there's one thing I leave you guys with today, it is that you always have the choice. If you ever let anyone, a family member, an employer, think that they're making the choice and not you, you need to change your orientation around. We are in charge of our own lives, and we are in charge of what we make of those lives. And if you understand that and really believe that, you're going to have a fantastic life because you're going to live the life that you want. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit. I think you heard this in the speech. I said, I will be a living role model to others, demonstrating that without fear, anything is possible. And I think when I think about my life and what I've accomplished and what I'm dealing with, you heard about my diagnosis of cancer. Unfortunately, that is still something that I'm very much dealing with today. I learned that this is my purpose. And I'm going to talk to you guys at the end of today about the importance, I believe, of women creating a purpose statement, their own personal value statement that is a constitution to how they look upon their lives. And I think that is the one best piece of advice I've ever gotten in my career. And I'm going to share it with you guys because I think it's something to consider, creating your own personal purpose statement. But I wanted you to see mine. Because every single day, no matter what I'm doing, when I'm at the hospital getting treatment, when I'm giving a speech like this, when I was Senior Vice President of Marketing at Nickelodeon, I'm always asking, am I living in line with that statement? And if I'm not, then I'm not happy and I got to change something around. So this is about my career. So this is going to be kind of fun. So I'm going to embarrass myself a little. I brought some pictures over the years of me. And what I would say is, I'd like to believe that I've always had fearless inside of me. I think you can absolutely, everyone has fear in their life. Let me start by there. If anyone says I have no fear, they're lying to you. In fact, having fear is a fantastic thing. It propels you, it motivates you. If anyone says that kind of racing heart or those sweaty hands are not good signs, they're wrong. We need that adrenaline to push us forward, to keep us going. If we lived in a constant state of lethargy, there would be no progress in this world. However, I believe that it's all about how you channel your fear. If you let your fear get too much power, then all of a sudden, you're not confident, you're not creative, and you're not in control of your life. So I like to say I've always had fearless moments inside of me. So what I wanted to do is kind of share with you a little bit. This is what I say is my career in 8 or 10 pictures. And then it's a little bit out of synchronization, because then I'll talk to you about my disease and what I made of my disease. But this is kind of fun. So the picture on the upper left of me eating a huge ice cream cone. Let me tell you a little bit of a story about that. I'm sure all of us have moments in our childhood that we remember something very specific and it sticks with us. I remember that apparently as a child, I would always make observations. I loved ice cream. I still love ice cream. I've written to Ben & Jerry's a million times asking if I could be an official taste tester. They laugh at me. My husband took me on the tour. He was embarrassed by how often I was raising my hand trying to answer the questions. He's like, those are for the kids, not for you. But I love ice cream. And we used to live near this ice cream store. And we used to drive past the ice cream store, and I would always hint at it. I would say, wow, look at that. That ice cream cone looks really good. Wow, it's hot today. Ice cream would taste really good. But I was never direct, and I would never ask for it. And I have a very, very vivid image in my mind that one day my mother slammed the car down. She drove over to the side of the road. She turned around and looked at me and said, Jennifer, you're never going to get what you want in life unless you ask for it. Do you have something to ask me? And I said, I want a big ass ice cream. And that was my reward that day. Mom gave me that ice cream cone to teach me, you need to ask what you want to get it in life. And I remember that all the time, because I think so much of us, again, have fears get in the way of asking for that raise, bringing a new idea to the table professionally. Why are we scared to ask for what we want? If our intentions are good and we believe it's going to help someone, why do we have fears of asking for what we want? I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but I just thought that was really, really fun for you to see. Since we are at Labaton, I thought I'd bring you a baton. I was a baton twirler when I was little. I'd like to say I was good. I was not that good, but it was commitment. And I remember I was going to be in my 4th grade talent show, and I had a solo. And it was to Donna Summer's Last Dance. I'm aging myself a little bit, but everyone knows that song. And if you guys remember the part where, sorry, I have allergies, the part where it goes from slow to fast, I had this move, and it was called the step out. And you had to throw the baton up in the air, turn around, and catch it on the way down. Very hard move. I practiced thousands of times, and I could never catch it. Never catch it. My mother jokes to this day that there is a dent in our front yard from how often I tried to throw that baton up and couldn't catch it. I went to the instructor. Can we take it out of the routine? Can we modify the routine? Can we push the talent show? Can we change it? And thanks to them, they said no. Even if you don't catch it, you're learning a lesson. Discipline, perseverance, not giving up when something doesn't go your way. And I practiced for so long. And maybe I only caught the baton once or twice before that day. And I remember that morning I was very, very nervous. And my mother said to me, be confident whether you catch it or not. It's not about whether you catch it or not. It's about how you approach the situation. So I go, do the baton, turn it up, turn around, catch it. Was so shocked that I caught it, I forgot the next 15 seconds. I had to tap dance. But the moral of the story, obviously, is what did I learn from that? Don't give up. You can't give up. The minute something doesn't go your way, you can't give up. You got to find another way around it. Flash forward years later, I studied abroad in Australia. And Kat, who's here today, studied abroad there with me. And for some reason, I always knew early on in life I wanted to be a marketer. I was really interested in marketing. I loved advertising specifically. Like, I loved the idea of understanding consumer insights and applying that creatively. So I was always very interested. I was a psychology major. I was always really interested in what's someone thinking and how can we use that to give a message to them that they want. So I had done my research, and I knew that Saatchi & Saatchi was this very big advertising agency. And I guess maybe it was because I was thousands of miles away from home. Maybe it was because it was just a different environment. But one of our first days in Australia, I was walking in a popular part of Sydney, and I saw the Saatchi & Saatchi headquarters. And I was like, now's my opportunity. You know, I think we had class 2 days a week. We weren't doing a lot of studying. And I said, you know, now's my time. And I walked right in, and I said, hi, I'm from the States. I'd really love to learn advertising. You don't have to pay me. You can take me for as little as few hours as I want. I'd love to be an intern. And it's funny because I think in New York, I don't think I would have done that. There's something about my fear of being too close to home, to be that out there, or to try something outside of my comfort zone. And they said, oh, that's nice. Call us back in a few days. I called back. I kept on calling back and back and back. I think finally they said, give the American a break. Just have her come in already. So it was fantastic. For, I think, 4 or 5 months, I worked at Saatchi & Saatchi Advertising as an intern in their production department. Not necessarily something that I ultimately wanted to do, but it was a fantastic way for me to creatively get into the field that I wanted to. And when I graduated from Duke, I had Saatchi & Saatchi Sydney on my resume. And guess what? Saatchi & Saatchi New York said, why don't you start your career here? And that's actually how I leveraged an internship to start my career in advertising. And it was funny because I look back and I was so proud of myself for doing that. You know, if you ever think there's something you can't do, why not? What was it in my mind that thought I couldn't just walk in there? I was giving myself a free, I was a smart person, I had stuff to offer, and it was great that they were able to take me up on that, and it really set me up. So from there, I worked in advertising, I went to Harvard for my business degree. Interesting, I have similar feelings to Jen about going to Harvard. I had never taken any type of quantitative classes since high school. I was the psychology film major in college. I was very, very concerned about my lack of quantitative skills, and I didn't really have anyone in my family who had gotten an MBA. My family is all attorneys, and I was concerned, like, I shouldn't even apply there. There's no way I'll get in. And luckily my family said, you got to be fearless. You got to try it. And I remember when I got in, everyone was celebrating, and I was terrified. I actually remember for the first month I held my acceptance letter, and I was like, I don't think that I have the ability to make it here. I'm so scared of failure. I think I'm just going to say no. And my brother said to me, they've been giving you the opportunity. If they think you can do it, then you can do it. And I remember I said, okay. He said, there might be times of discomfort, but you got to try. You got to do it. Worst case, you hire a tutor, you find someone else, but you got to try. And I have to say, it was the most amazing decision I ever made. It was tough. It was a really hard, especially first year, very, very hard. I definitely was not known as the finance girl. I definitely made a lot of friends who were good at finance to help me in the after hours. Luckily, I was good at marketing to help them. But it was a great example of having to put my fears aside. And as a result, what did I learn from that? I met so many people. It really helped me propel my career forward. And I met my husband. So it was a great thing to actually get over those fears and go. From then, I worked lots of fun consulting jobs. I was at McKinsey doing consulting. This is one of my favorites, is a skydiving picture. This is a funny example. I don't know how many of you have fear of heights. Anyone have fear of heights? I have terrible fear of heights. Terrible fear of heights. I had this amazing assignment when I was at McKinsey. We were at the Army, and we were hired to revamp their entire marketing strategy. It was so interesting. It was before 9/11, and patriotism was at an all-time low. And the Army could not recruit enough people. And they came to us and said, we need to start looking at ourselves like an employer. Walmart has to hire 250,000 people a year. So do we. Our messaging obviously is not working. We need to hire you. So hired us. It was fantastic. I worked in the Pentagon for a year and a half. And they wanted to thank us. So they said, how can we thank you? Well, some guy on my team raised his hand and said, it would be great if we could jump out of a plane with the Golden Knights. And I thought they were joking. The next morning, you don't joke with the Army, I'll tell you. I've learned, when you have a general sitting there, you don't joke. So the next morning, we got a call. Please report tomorrow at 0600 to Fort Bragg. You're jumping out of a plane with the Golden Knights. And I can't say this is on tape. Every bad word came into my mind. I'm like, are you kidding? I can't do it. There's no way. I cannot do this. This is where it stops. I'm terrified of heights. I mean, I guess if you're going to jump, you're jumping with the Golden Knights, so you're pretty lucky. The guy that actually I was attached to, George Bush Sr., had jumped out with him the week before. So right, they trust the president with this guy. How bad can it be? But I was so terrified. I remember I said, I can't do this. But of course, there was that competitive peer pressure in me, and everyone on my team was going. And I said, oh my God, I'm embarrassed to say I'm totally going because of peer pressure. And I remember they suited us up, and we got on the plane, and we're going up in the plane, and I'm attached to this guy, and I am by far the most scared I've ever been in my life. Sweating, freaking out. And I realized at some point that I'm not going back down. They're not going to turn this plane around for me. So any resistance that I had to that fear was really a waste of energy at this point. I should have said no a long time ago. I wasn't saying no anymore. So what I needed to do is apply that fear in a positive way and channel it positively. And I started to say, okay, what is it that you're afraid of? And I realized that so much of what I was afraid of is what could be, not what is. And that is what is true about fear. Over 90% of fears are fear of what could happen, not fear of what is happening. Great example is snakes. People are scared of snakes. It's one of the biggest fears. How many of those people have actually been bitten or attacked by a snake? This much. In their head, they imagine what could be. So I realized in my mind, okay, let me just get it out. What am I scared of? I'm scared that the parachute's not going to open and I'm going to die. And all these things, and then I got them out, and all of a sudden my mind was that much more free to accept the experience. And I remember We're standing at the edge of the plane. If I did not have a guy attached to me, there's no way I would have jumped. I'm telling you right now. But it was fantastic because I just let it go. I had to let it go. And I realized that all of my fears were in my head. And it was the most amazing experience I ever had. It was so fun, not only the experience of skydiving, but what I learned about myself, which is I was caging myself in with my fears. There was no, the truth is, the chances of the parachute not opening were so small. This guy had 3 reserve chutes. He had everything on him. This guy had done 8,000 jumps. I was in safe hands. I did my research. But then it was all about me letting go and getting out. And it was such an amazing experience to know that, wow, there is fearless in me, and I have that in me. I can do that. As Jen said, I spent years marketing, running marketing at Ann Taylor, running marketing at Nickelodeon. So going from Ann Taylor to SpongeBob is a little bit different. But all, I would say what was interesting for me, and this is about the time also that I was diagnosed with my disease, and I'll talk to you guys about that. But when you have an experience like that, all of a sudden you start to realize, like I said in the video, you can't scare me about anything. And I started to realize that I had all of these, I thought, really interesting ideas to bring to the company. And yet I was overwhelmed with the politics, for lack of a better word, of the culture. Meaning, I have a really interesting idea, but I had so many considerations in my head. What happens if they don't like it? What happens if my boss doesn't think that I'm smart because I bring it up? What happens if I'm new to the company? What happens if I look like a renegade? What happens if this? What happens if that? They were all questions that were taking me away from bringing great ideas to the company. And I started to say, what happens if I eliminated all those considerations? Because one of the things that I've learned, and I've learned this through the charity that I've created that I'll share with you, is that you are not going to be able to sell something unless you have no considerations. If you go into a room and have so many considerations in your head, you're not going to be a great pitch. You just can't do it because you're still trying to convince yourself. So to go into a meeting and say, I have this great idea, it's SpongeBob's 10th anniversary. It might be hard, I know we have to convince these 18 people, but here's the idea. No, you need to go in fearless and realize that I'm prepared to answer questions if people have them, but I need to convince them differently. And I think what I'm so proud of, between probably Ann Taylor and Nickelodeon, I was at both companies for a total of about 5 years, is the new thinking that I brought to the company. And the ability that I had to not stop the minute I was told, we can't do that, and to figure out a way around it. At Ann Taylor, one of the big insights was Loft is very, very popular with teachers. Very, very popular. But we'd never done any type of loyalty program with teachers. We'd never thought about them as a market. And I did all this research and had all the facts that if we did like a created program, Loft Loves Teachers, we would be able to not only encourage them to get discounts, to bring their friends, to come in, to make them feel special, to actually donate to charities that matter to them. And it was definitely a new way of thinking. At Ann Taylor, we don't do partnerships. That's the way we work. And it was hard, and it was long, and I would often hang a sign on my wall that says, don't forget the end game. Don't get stumbled by the little stumbling blocks along the way. And I'm so thrilled that program was launched. It's still going on today, and it continues to be really, really successful. With SpongeBob, it's funny to work on SpongeBob. Do people watch SpongeBob?
Of
I mean, they
course.
must be paying my bills for many years. Well, I just don't get it. But anyway, that's me with the cast of iCarly. If any of you have kids, I'm very cool with them because iCarly is, a big deal. She's a little weird and real-lighted, but it was funny. It was SpongeBob's 10th anniversary. And SpongeBob, for an animated character to make it to 10 years is very, very unique. Besides, Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse, there are not many who've done that. And we needed to throw a big, unique idea for SpongeBob's 10th. And one of the ideas I brought was, why isn't SpongeBob in Madame Tussauds Wax Museum? Why aren't we making him a wax figure? Because if you go to the Wax Museum, that's a legacy. And we should be legacies. Well, people love the idea, but Madame Tussauds had never had a cartoon wax figure before. They didn't know how to create SpongeBob. It was amazing, and I said, I'm not giving up on this idea. It's smart, I can address all your considerations, we'll figure it out. And that's us at the launch of SpongeBob at the Madame Tussauds Wax Museum. So this is just to give you an example of, I do believe that in my life and in my career, there have been fearless moments. And those moments have been when I've been most proud of my work, when I felt that I've given and contributed the most in life, and I felt like I've been so much in touch with my purpose. If we flip over, all of those things that we learned, unfortunately, prepared me for the biggest challenge in my life, which is dealing with this rare type of cancer I have. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the cancer, but then more talk about what I did with the cancer, which I think is a gift that keeps giving to me, and I think it's a great way for you to look at, to be cliche, making lemonade out of lemons. I was diagnosed in December 2004 with a rare type of cancer in my abdominal area. It is called sarcoma. There's very little known about it. It's a rare cancer. About 50% of people who have this cancer don't make it past 5 years. I am at 6.5 now. And the good news is it's stayed in my general abdominal area. Unfortunately, this is not a baby bump. These are actually my tumors. And I've been on over 10 different types of chemotherapy. I had 6 surgeries, and it has become a huge, huge job. And it's been very challenging to be told at 33, a year after you're married, that you have this rare cancer and we don't know what we can do for you. I don't wish that on anyone. However, I really, really do believe it's been a gift to my life, because all of a sudden it made me realize life's short. What am I waiting for? And I started to evaluate, am I happy in my everyday? Am I happy with what I'm doing? And it's interesting because some of the examples of my career successes that I just gave you were after I was diagnosed. Because I started to realize that I was spending so much time being scared. And you have a choice in how you live. And when I was diagnosed with my disease, I said, I have a choice. I can give up or I can fight like hell. And that's how I've decided to live my life. I wake up every day and I see how I feel, and that's how I dictate how I'm going to live my life. And it was interesting. As we were dealing with my cancer early on, I love cycling. That's a picture of me in my house cycling when I was going through treatment. I had a lot of great wigs. That's me with my bandana on. And I love cycling. And I started to realize when we talked to my doctors that there are all these rare types of cancer. And what's interesting is rare types of cancer, everyone thinks, oh, I've never heard of them, why would I be interested? Well, when my husband and I did more research, what we found out actually is that rare types of cancer account for 50% of total cancers. So basically, every cancer is considered rare, with the exception of breast, lung, colorectal, and prostate. A lot of us know people who've suffered from other cancers than that. Ovarian cancer, melanoma, sarcoma, leukemia, lymphoma, all pediatric cancers, ovarian cancer. And they get a fraction of the funding of anyone else. And the challenge with these rare cancers is there's not an incentive from the pharmaceutical company to put billions of dollars behind research to research them, because it's a business. I'll spend billions of dollars creating a drug for breast cancer because I know right now that there are 10 million women a year who might try it. It's just economics. So what my husband and I realized is there's a need to raise money to help rare cancers and to get awareness out there. So Cycle for Survival was born. And what I love about this charity, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, is there was no fancy blueprint for me creating this charity. This was me and a few cycling instructors in a bar one night, brainstorming, how can we have a good time and put this to good use? It was driven by my passion and my purpose. I did not have a fancy business plan. And we are 5 years strong now. We've raised over $9 million for cancer research. We are the fastest growing event in the country. It started as 50 teams in a little cycling studio in my gym in the Equinox Columbus Circle. It's now over 1,000 teams in New York, San Francisco, LA, Long Island, Greenwich, New Jersey.
Chicago.
Thank you. And it's fantastic. And we've gotten amazing press. This is an example of someone ringing the NASDAQ bell. I've been on the Today Show. You know you made it when you're in the National Enquirer. The hospital's not happy with that. But what I wanted to share with you is again, this was, yes, I had 15 plus years of marketing experience and an MBA to use to help me. So things came naturally. But I never sat down and said, oh my God, I can't do this. What's going to happen? I just did it because my heart was in it. And it was funny, my husband found an email the other day that we decided we have to frame. It was an email that I sent to some of my friends. And I said, do you think if we ask people to donate $500 per team, that's okay, because then we could raise $10,000. And let me tell you a little bit about the event first and then tell you about our trajectory. The event is an indoor cycling relay. So what you do is you share a bike with friends and family. And it's so fun. We have, I don't think I have pictures here, but if you go on the website, you can see teams make their own t-shirts. And so basically you share a bike for 4 hours. Anyone can do that. It's the lazy man's triathlon. I always say, with all due respect to the people who do the marathons and the triathlons, the point of this is to get people who want to give back but don't have the time to train. My 90-year-old grandmother rides with me every year. She has a bad hip. She gets on the bike for 10 minutes and she feels great. It's an indoor bike. You can't fall off. It's in the middle of the winter. There's nowhere to go. And what you do is you form teams and you ride in honor or in memory of someone. Equinox is our official partner. Memorial Sloan Kettering is our official partner. We have a team of 8 or 10 people now who work on this event full time. And I'm kind of the chairman of the board and help oversee it. But what's amazing about it is that I thought we would make $10,000. In the first year, in that one gym, we raised $200,000. We said, wow, that's pretty good. We gave the money to the hospital, and the hospital wasn't involved at this point. We gave the money to the hospital. We said, okay, well, we got to try it next year. So instead of 50 bikes next year, we made it 100. And we raised $650,000. And at that point, I had relapsed, I think, for the second time. And my husband said, all right, this is, too much. You can't do this alone. And he was right. So I had to prepare myself for the 2 biggest business meetings I've ever had in my life, the ones that meant the most to me out of any meeting. And that was to go meet with Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, who I have been treated at and giving them money to, and to meet with Equinox Fitness and pitch them. And it was at that pitch that I realized I had no fear about this. This idea is fantastic. It's needed. 100% of the money is going directly where it needs to go. And I have no fear. I have no considerations. And I walked in. I showed a video of what the event had been. I explained my own personal story. I said, without you guys even being involved, we've raised $1 million. Imagine what we could do if you got involved. And they, thank God, said yes. We're so excited. And 3 years later now, this past year, we raised $4.7 million for a national event, which is really, really, really exciting. And it's the gift that keeps giving for me. And it's interesting because I say, be the change you want to see in the world. That's my favorite quote by Gandhi, is you don't sit around and wait for things to happen. You got to make them happen. And this charity very much was something that we made happen. It wasn't in the books. And what's so nice is we've seen so many people coming together because of it and have made it their own charity now. And that's really gratifying to me. If we go to I think this is the last page, the next one? Yeah. I call it what I've learned over the years without being too preachy. I wanted to share a little bit about kind of in my mind the 6 or 7 big nuggets that I wish someone told me a long time ago that I've learned along the way. The first one is the most important one. The only way to get it there is to put it there. Do you guys remember, I'm not very good at math, but I remember in high school, we had to move, do you remember that where you had to move the integer from one side of the equation to the other? -3 became +3 to balance out the equation. And I remember my teacher would always say, the only way to get it there is to put it there. Figure out the logic of putting it there. And I love that expression because it's true. The only way to get it there is to put it there. Be the change you want to see in the world. And that starts with taking 100% responsibility for the life you lead. And that is the way I live my life. It is hard. Being 100% responsible is really hard. And I've been working on it probably now for about 10 years, and I have not close to mastered it. But let me give you an example of what real 100% responsibility is. It means that blame is not part of your equation anymore. You never blame people because it's all about you. All about you. So let me give you an example in like a management context. You are managing someone, and you ask them to do some due diligence on a project or a case that you have, and they come back and it's not presented at all the way that you were hoping, the way that you had asked. There are 2 ways to handle that situation as a boss. I can't believe, Stacy, you did it this way. This is not what I was looking for. I thought we went over it. If you had questions, you should have asked me. It's 3 days before the deadline. I'm really disappointed in you. Now we have to do it all over. That's one way. That's not taking any responsibility. That's putting blame on the person who works for you. As a result, that person's demotivated and annoyed. You're demotivated and annoyed, and the chances of you getting success are going to be very small. The 100% responsibility way, which is much harder to do, is to say, you know what, Stacy, I am so sorry. I must not have done a very good job explaining to you what I was looking for, because I'm sure if I had, we would have nailed it. Let's sit down together. I'm going to go through in my head with you. Let's write it down, exactly what I'm looking for. Tell me if you understand, and if we're good to go, let's go work on it and come back tomorrow and I'll review it with you. The benefit there is you've said exactly the same thing that you need to say. You're not happy with the work, but you're taking responsibility because you were the one communicating the assignment to someone. It is very, very hard to do that. But if you live 100% responsible with all aspects of your life, you're in more control of your life. You're not giving it up to anyone. A child, someone who works for you, someone who you work for. And that is the most important thing. Take 100% responsibility for the life you lead. If you have a bad day at work, rather than blame someone for it, say, what could I have done that could have been better? If I get a bad review, it's not, oh, I hated that woman anyway, she didn't like me, or that guy's a jerk. Wow, what could I have done better to make them want to give me a better review? It's hard to do. There are times where I think I'm living 100% responsibly and I'm not, but that is the most important thing that I think. Always think in your head, am I really being responsible to the situation? Find your life's purpose and use it to calibrate how successful you are in your day-to-day life. I shared with you my purpose before was I want to be a living role model to others, demonstrating that without fear, anything is possible. I worked with a coach on that about 10 years ago. It was an exhausting process, and it was the best money I ever spent in my life. Because your purpose statement is who you are at your core. It's beyond any job. It's beyond any role you have as a mother, as a daughter, as a sister, as an associate, as a volunteer. It is who you are. And when you are living in line with your purpose statement, you are humming, and nothing's going to stop. And what's amazing to me is Cycle for Survival is the perfect fulfillment of what my purpose statement is. I'm showing people. I'm dealing with cancer every day. I'm not letting it get in my way. I'm still going to create this thing that's going to help millions of people. And I hang my purpose statement on my wall. And I look at it all the time. And if I have a bad conversation with someone, if I'm having a tough day, or sometimes when I was, in the corporate world and I just had a bad week, I was feeling a little blah, feeling a little off, I would look at my statement and say, am I living it? Wow, you know what? Wow, either the culture that I'm in or the way that I'm orienting myself is not helping me with my purpose. I need to change my environment or change my orientation. And I'm happy to talk to you guys about this. I actually help people create purpose statements. I really recommend it. It is the best thing you can do for yourself because it doesn't change. It's a constitution for who you are. For the rest of your life, you have it, no matter how old your kids are, no matter what job you're in, and you live true to it. So I really, really recommend that. We talked a little bit about this, allowing fear to catapult your passions, not hinder them. It's great to have fear. Don't push it down when you notice it. Use it to harness it and figure out why are you scared. If there's a decision that has to be made, a meeting you're going into, and you start to feel those physical symptoms of fear, your palms are sweaty, your heartbeat's beating fast, you're nervous, why? Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? And I guarantee you, most of what you're feeling is imagined in your head. It's not what's going to happen. As Jen said before, I have a fear of speaking in front of people. I have a fear of what they'll think of me. Well, guess what? You haven't gotten up there yet. Don't think about that. Think about what you're doing because you did a lot of work on that presentation and you're going to thrive. So use fear to help you, to help acknowledge, figure out, dive deeper. You start to see trends. Wow, I tend to always get this fear when I'm going in front of this particular person. Or I tend to always have this fear if I'm running late for a meeting. Use that as a way to calibrate what you need to do to help change your life and make it better. Sometimes not having a plan is great. Have the courage to let your instincts guide you. I have to say, I am the quintessential type A, always had a plan. cancer was the best thing that happened to me just because it was not part of the plan. And every day, I don't know. I don't know how long I'm still going to be here. I don't know how long the drugs are going to continue to work. And I have to accept that. And I think sometimes, especially, I don't mean to stereotype, but smart, career-driven women feel a need to have a very, very detailed, specific plan. I recommend having a great outline. You should definitely have an outline. I'm not suggesting just walk around and not, wait for things to come to you, because then that wouldn't be taking responsibility of your life. But have an outline and be willing to let the plan change. Because I say to people all the time, what I'm doing today with my career, I never would have imagined doing, and I'm the happiest I've ever been. So have an outline, but resist having a detailed plan, because it's going to hold you back from all these great opportunities that you're not seeing. And I often believe that when you're open-minded, the most amazing opportunities present themselves to you. You could only sell something if you authentically believe in it. I think I shared this a little bit during the speech. My favorite story is probably the Cycle for Survival. I've had to pitch, convince, sell. I've had to talk to probably 5,000 people over the years in some way to either convince them to give a service, to donate money, to participate. And there was only one person who ever said no to me. And that was the local nail salon down the street who wouldn't give me a free $7 manicure. And karma's a bitch because they're out of business. So just to show you that, I really, really do believe, think about the work you're in. I did business development for years at the companies I was in. When I was a consultant at McKinsey and then at a company called the Geppetto Group, I was in charge of new business development. And I love the company that I worked with, and I was good at business development, but I wasn't nearly as good as I am now at Cycle for Survival. Why is that? Because my heart wasn't 100% in. And you have to realize if you're pitching something to someone, to an organization, to your family, this is holographic for all life. If you have your own considerations in your mind that are preventing you from being most effective, you're not going to be able to persuade someone to go on that path with you. So realize that if a lot of your life right now is being spent selling something and you're not very good at it, taking 100% responsibility again, it probably means that your heart's not in it and you need to rethink about what you're doing. Because when your heart's in something, you can't go wrong. I really, really believe that. Constructive feedback is great. Actively search for it and use it to better yourself. This is all about 100% responsibility. Working at McKinsey was by far the best thing and the worst thing that I ever did. I don't know how many of you are familiar with McKinsey's feedback model. You get feedback after every project you're on and 3 times a year, and they give you 3 positive things and 3 things that need to work on. Coming from an advertising and marketing background where everyone's great and there are a lot of emotional personalities and we don't really give feedback because we're scared what people will think if we say the wrong thing, it was terrifying to not take it so personally and make it paralyze me as opposed to help me. I ask people to give me feedback all the time. 1, you get more comfortable hearing feedback the more you ask for it. And 2, don't you want to be a better person? I remember once someone saying to me, oh, Jen, you're doing this thing that really actually has a bad effect on people. I had no idea. I was so happy someone finally had the nerve to tell me because I wanted the opportunity to fix it and change it. Don't be scared of feedback. You are the only one hurting yourself. Because if you don't want to hear it, you're not changing and you're not open to it. The most successful people in life who are the happiest, regardless of what their title is or role, are people who have a really good sense of their strengths and weaknesses. I can sit down with you and tell you right now, here are the 5 things that I really need to work on. And I work on them all the time. So when someone tells me that, it's more, thank you for telling me how do I better myself. I think way too many of us are too emotional and run away from feedback. It's a disservice to ourselves. Really remember that. And then the last thing is finding mentors early and often in life. I would not be where I am today without so many of the amazing women who've actually guided me through the years. Men as well, for me, I've actually mostly had women mentors, but they're fantastic. And what I will say, a mentor can come from anywhere or any place. It doesn't have to be your direct boss. It doesn't have to be someone at your company. It's someone that you feel a connection to, that you believe can give you an unbiased assessment of how you're doing, of how life is, and can teach you new ways and how to do things. There's a woman who is the director of Cycle for Survival. She's 11 years younger than I am, and she is a mentor to me. I learned so much from her. Hopefully she learns from me, and it's fantastic. Would I have expected to find a mentor who's 29 years old? No, but every day she teaches me something I didn't know. And I think that's really, really important. I think a lot of us are nervous to ask that person out to lunch, to see if they want to get a coffee, to ask for help. And it is silly, because what I've learned is people love giving back. It's so true. People love giving back. We're so scared to ask for things, and people love it. I was so scared to ask people to get involved. This past year, we had 5,000 people riding across the country. And they're not just doing it for me. In the early years, it was for me. Now they've taken it on themselves. And what I encourage you to do is people have to give back. So find a mentor. The only way you can find a mentor is to be a mentor. So go out today and think, who are 2 people that I actually think a lot of? I think they have a lot of potential. Offer your services to them. Say, you know what? If you ever want, I'm happy to be a sounding board for you. I'm happy to help you in your career. It's a really wonderful thing that will give back to you too. So not only pay it forward, but also pay it back. And find those mentors, because they'll be happy that you asked them. That's really what I have to say. I appreciate you guys having me. I would love to answer any questions that you guys have. I encourage you to visit cycleforsurvival.org. I have my card here. I would love to get you guys involved. We don't have the date officially for next year. I think it's going to be sometime in February, but it would be fantastic to have the firm get involved. It is such a fun day. And if I take your information, I can absolutely get you guys information about that. And if you go to the left side, you can see my contact information that I put up there. You guys can see that's my website. I have a blog that people tend to like to follow. My email, Facebook, Twitter, the whole thing, so that you can find me. And I also have a card and would be happy to take your information. So thank you guys so much for this chance. I'll be here for a while, so you can absolutely come up to me afterwards. Anyone have questions? I'm easy. I promise.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Have you ever had to pitch something you didn't believe in?
Of course.
And how did you handle it?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's hard. You have to. Life is about, you can't always be 100% into everything. I think the important thing to do is there's a difference between not believing in it and still having some considerations with it. I would not go into a room and pitch something that I thought was wrong, either ethically or morally, or just not right, because I wouldn't do a good job. And I would say, you know what, someone else is probably better to handle this, because I really have a lot of major concerns about this. However, I think there's a lot more gray areas, which are, I think it's a good idea, but I still have some considerations. What I do often before a meeting like that, because my guess is most of your meetings are that gray area. Hopefully, if something's really out there, you're not the only one who has issues and it's gone. But what I do is I actually make up pros and cons, and I try to get all the considerations out of my mind. So say one of the concerns I have is, this is really expensive. So if it's a consideration to me, it's going to be a consideration to the client or whoever's on the other side. So I anticipate, okay, is it expensive, or look at the value I'm giving you? So let me think through, okay, so if someone asks me, oh, wow, I think it's too expensive, how would I answer that in a way that feels right to me? So what I often say to people is, well, I don't look at so much as the price tag as the value you're going to get. And let me tell you, I truly believe that the value of this is going to far outweigh the cost. And I feel comfortable saying that. So what I'll do is, I won't eliminate those fears, but I will rehearse them in a way that I feel very comfortable knowing what might be coming up and how can I address it in a way that doesn't make me uncomfortable. And I also think honesty is the best policy. If someone says something to you that they have a huge consideration and you've thought through it and you really agree with them. You know, I think often we think we have to be on opposite sides of the table. The best clients are the ones who truly understand what you need. And if that's not going to work for you, you know what? I understand where you're coming from. Let me go back and think about that, because I agree with you. Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, I'll stay for a while. Feel free, please, to come up and chat with me. Take my information down. I'll give you guys a card. And again, thank you for the privilege. It's been great.
Thank you.
Thank you.